welcome to another episode of the Strength Log. My name is Philip Wildenstam. I'm a co-founder of Strength Log and a certified nutrition coach.
And I'm Daniel Richter, CEO of Strength Log and a certified personal trainer. And the weather outside is frightful, Philip.
Oh, it's too warm.
No, but it's not really frightful. It's beautiful. It's snowing outside.
Yeah.
I love it.
First snow of the year here. No, not the year, the season.
Yeah.
We had a lot
of winter.
This winter, yeah. We had a lot of snow up until April, I think. But
I coach soccer for my son's team. They're 8-year-olds, and we had a training last night when it started snowing. But it initially rained during the practice, and then it started snowing. So the boys were pretty cold towards the end, especially the fingers. But yeah, it was magical.
But I remember when I used to play football as a teenager, and our season was in the fall and early winter. And I hated rainy workouts, but snow was much better.
Yeah,
I mean, you get super cold when you stand with your hands in the ground as a lineman, as I was back then. But it's still something special about working out in the snow.
Yes, it is.
You should move your home gym outdoors during.
I considered recording some workout clips outside, but I don't know. We'll see.
That would be old school Daniel. You used to have.
Yeah, before I had a gym, I worked out outside all the time.
Yeah.
There are a couple old training clips where I bench press out in the snow.
That's nice. All right.
It's still fairly cold in the garage, though, but you can't tell.
What do you have lined up for us today, Daniel?
Yeah, we're gonna talk about, I mentioned to you earlier before we hit record, that it feels like we've been talking about this for months now, but we're making the episode about the high frequency training I've been doing the last, 100 plus days now, and about the new training program that's available now in our app Strength Log called Groundhog Gains.
Such a great name.
It's an awesome name.
So have you seen the movie yet?
I'll see it in a minute now.
I mean, it's only been out for like 30 plus years or something.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite movies. I rewatch it almost yearly.
Yes, you do. Yeah, no, so, yeah, I feel like I've been hampering on about this for so long now.
Yeah, you have, because let's start this episode over. It's just a Groundhog Day for all of us.
That is true. No, but so I've those who follow me on Instagram, and we mentioned it in the podcast, I've been doing what I refer to as the big 5 lifts, but it's some 5 big lifts. I've been doing the squat, deadlift, bench press, barbell row, and pull up daily for almost, as mentioned, I think it's 110 days now. The last 46 days are completely unbroken. The days before that have some gaps in them. But basically for several months now, and seeing some nice results from it. And there's been more interest in this than I anticipated, because when I started, this wasn't supposed to be a thing, but it became a thing.
Are you surprised that people are interested in a fucking freak doing fucking freaky shit?
Yeah, a bit, I suppose. In the beginning, we started talking about should we turn this into a program, and I thought, no, we can't. How would we write it? Because it requires some intuition. I thought, but I warmed to the notion, and was it last week, I think, or a week and a half ago, we actually published a new premium program in the app based on this training called Groundhog Gains, which runs on 5 days per week. I've been doing 7 days per week for these last 46 days, and like 6.5 days per week in the period before that. The program runs on 5 days per week, but I mean, if you're brave enough, you can just skip the rest days and just hit all the days back to back. But we settled on 5 days per week just to make it accessible for more people, because most people don't have a garage gym or don't want to train every day.
Yeah.
but
most
maybe are
people,
curious about doing this.
I mean, if we look at the population in full, most people don't want to train at all.
Yeah. Or maybe they kind of want to train, but there are thresholds that keep them from it.
Yeah, I'm in a position where I often think that I should go back to training 5 or 6 times per week. That would allow me to do more, because I'm lazy these days. My workouts are done in an hour. They used to take 2.5 hours, and I used to live in the gym 6 days a week. That's a lot of hours of training in a week, and now I do 4 times per week, so 4 hours instead of 14 hours that I used to do. But I mean, I was a power lifter back then. I had a 8-minute rest between my sets, and that is something I don't do anymore. I most often rest for 3 minutes.
That's fast for you.
That's very fast for me, but look at me. I'm a lean, mean fighting machine.
Yeah. I started doing this high frequency training when it was summer, and now it's officially winter. And when it got colder, my rest times, they decreased drastically.
Yeah, because you work out in a, is it even a garage? Is
It's a garage, but uninsulated, at least on the floor and roof. Ground.
So you have a small heat fan in there?
Yeah. But it's just a couple degrees above freezing right now. But I mean, that's fine once you're warm. Or I mean, like 10 centigrades is probably best, because you still don't want your muscles to get too cold. And I don't want to have a bunch of clothes on when I train either, like winter clothing. So it's a bit too cold right now, but it works. It definitely does.
Especially if you're doing a lot of work in a short amount of time, you're gonna get warmer.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm fond of alternating sets. So if I do like squats as my focus, I might do some light pull-ups while waiting, so to say, just to get some more work in. But yeah, okay. So in this episode, we're gonna talk about the program, but also about high frequency training in general. And one of the effects that I keep noticing is that when you do something almost, say, daily or almost daily, you are always kind of prepared for doing it. You don't need a ton of warm-up, which has obviously some benefits, but the drawback now that when the weather is cold is that you still need to get warm to perform well. So you have to warm up, and it feels even more like you don't need to really, but it's still a good thing.
Yeah, but this does not apply to the regular listener who has a gym card, a gym membership.
That's true.
And they get into their comfy gyms.
Yeah. They might sweat when they train. I don't like doing that.
No, I sweat a lot when I train.
So where to start? Maybe that it seems to be working, the program. I suppose.
That's a good start.
Yeah.
Now, I often think about something you have said several times in this podcast, and when we've had private conversation. I don't remember who said the quote, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but if something is worth doing, why not do it every day? Or something like that.
If it's important, do it every day. Dan Gable, wrestling coach.
Yeah, right. And I remember when I wanted to bring my sorry, sad bench press up to a decent level. And I decided to do bench pressing for 5 or 6 workouts per week. I went from doing it twice per week. And slowly at first, trying to have some reasonable progression in how many set and reps I did. But in the end, I was doing like 70, 80, 90 working sets per week. And I always felt ready to bench.
Yeah.
It was magical. And I've never increased my bench press more in that short of a time span. Not even when I was a beginner, because I sucked at the bench press. I struggled for every kilo I got in the beginning. And I think I raised it from around 130 kilos to 165 kilos when doing this for half a year, 7 months. It was awesome. I was always ready to bench press. So I believe in high frequency training.
Yeah, and I mean, I might sit here in a year and be totally sold on training once per week and super intense, but you can train in a lot of different ways, but high frequency
Absolutely.
training definitely has its case for it. I mean, there's the practice aspect, and there's also the stimulative effect for the body, that you're there and nudging it very often to grow and improve and get all these adaptations in the muscles. And I mean, if we look at like nature or just people with works that in which they use some muscle every time, you see this development there, which can happen really quickly. And why wouldn't this be able to work for exercises like the deadlift and squat and things like that? Obviously, it's really easy to do too much too soon, which is why the program, I think a lot of people is going to find it really light. But I'd rather have it that way, and then maybe people can do it for 2 rounds, one with like easy weights and the other round with slightly heavier weights, to see how that feels. Um, and I mean, because I feel like I'm always training light.
I mean, that was one of the first responses you got on when the program was published. A guy that we know quite well and appreciate and like, he wrote that he tried the first workout, but it was not for him because it was way too light. And and I laughed out loud when I read that, because what if the first workout were super hard and then you're supposed to do this daily for 6 more weeks?
Exactly.
You would die.
Yeah. And I mean, I loosely based this on Easy Strength, a program from Dan John when I started out, which is even lighter. It has you doing 2 sets of 5 with like, there are no percentages in it, but the gist I think is like 50 to 60% of your 1 rep max,
Yeah.
and that's all you do. So I mean, this is heavy compared to that.
Yeah, but that's always been an issue with our percentage-based programs that run more than 1 workout per week. That we start out with a introduction week where you just try to get yourself into the mood of the program, and then we slowly raise the weights or the number of reps, and it gets harder. And we know that a lot of people struggle when they are approaching week 4, 5, 6 in a 6-week program, because they immediately bumped up their 1RMs in the app.
Yeah.
Because the first workouts, they felt so light. How can this be training then?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The first weeks are almost always for getting people in line, so to say, and getting them used to the rhythm of the program and the exercises they're exposed to in it. And starting really, really light. Yeah. So, but Groundhog Gains is percentage based in the big lift, so in the squat, bench, and deadlift, which means that when you start it, you enter your 1 rep maxes, and 1 rep max is the heaviest weight you can currently lift for a single repetition. So either you might have recently tested your strength, or kind of where your strength is, and you get to enter that. If you really don't know, then you can use like a 1 rep max calculator to get an estimate, and then you enter that. Yeah. But yeah, you enter those, and then the app spits out the training weights for you in, as mentioned, squat, bench, and deadlift, but not in the barbell row and the lat pull down, which is what I put in the program instead of pull-ups. Once again, because more people can do lat pull-downs than pull-ups. But if you can and want to do pull-ups, just change the exercise and adjust the repetitions.
Yeah.
Because like the guidelines for choosing weights in the barbell rows and lat pull-downs is to choose something that's really light. I mean, you're on your own in those, but really go for something like half of what you could do. And then in week 2, increase them or something if you want to.
And I mean, most people are not going to have a 1RM in the lat pull down or the barbell row, because it's not one of those exercises where we don't even do 2 reps in those episodes. We're not supposed to. We always go 6, 7, 8 up to 30 reps when it's a pump exercise.
Yeah, I suppose it is. Yeah, so you're on your own in those, but the other ones will decide for you. And yeah, then absolutely, if you know what you're doing, you can adjust your entered 1RMs to get like the right training weights for you. But it's always hard when you haven't trained a program before because you don't know what's coming. I mean, you can look ahead, but you don't really know how you're gonna feel when you get to week 2 and 3 and 4. So it's always a good idea to start with a fairly light cycle, and then if you're doing it again, you can bump it up. So it's 30 workouts during 6 weeks or less if you run it back to back all the while. So I mean, one can definitely do 2 cycles of this without getting too bored from it. I've had stints where I've been bored now during these 110 days, but now I'm back into feeling like this is great. I'm gonna keep doing it.
But I thought about that. We haven't discussed it, but what if you've done one cycle? Should you really start it over on week 1, or should you just restart week 5 or 6 and keep going
week
from there?
1? I think it's good because the volume like is the lowest in week 1 and maybe week 6 when you do some 1RM tests, and then it like peaks somewhere in the middle of the program, and the weights increase steadily throughout the 6 weeks. So I think it's good to get some variation in there, and that's how I've been training as well. I've been like for the most part of this, I've been trying to do as much volume as possible. So I've taken like 2 steps ahead, and then I felt like, I need to back off a bit. So I've taken 1 step back, and I've done it like that. So that brings like some natural variation or periodization into the program. Now I have quite many weeks where I've been at a low volume compared to how I trained earlier on. But right about now, I'm starting to think about upping the volume a bit again, because I lowered the volume, increased the weights to see if I could hit some new PRs. But now I'm starting to feel like I've been doing low volume for too long, so to say. So I want to up the volume a bit again, at least in some of the exercises, because I do think that is. Like when you practice something very often, and especially you go up to pretty heavy weights, I think that is going to drive a lot of this skill acquisition. So you're going to get a lot of proficiency with lifting heavy. But I mean, I'm a firm believer in also building up that hardware, meaning building up the muscles. And you don't do that as effectively if you just go up to like a heavy single every day. You might build some muscle from it, especially if you're not very accustomed to the total volume that's going to be. But I mean, slapping on a couple of back-off sets is probably a good idea for the long term if you want to develop the muscle mass as well, to get some more reps in.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try doing that a bit again, at least in the bench and the squat. I don't like back-off sets in the deadlift.
I don't like deadlifts.
I like them now, kind of. That's because I mean the squat and the bench press. I mean, I'm only 38, but I still feel like stiff to some extent in those exercises.
Yeah.
But the deadlift, you're never near any end ranges, so it's quite comfortable from that perspective. You don't need to like limber up to do deadlifts. You can just slap on the weights and do it.
Say that to my herniated disc.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to be forced in December to actually do some deadlifts, because I have included them in the fitness advent calendar we have in our app. Premiering December 1st. It's free for everyone.
Yeah, so I've gotten a bunch of questions regarding the program. Some of you saw the live Q&A that I did on YouTube. Some of you might have read the answers to them in the Instagram comments. But I thought we'd field the questions one more time so that we have covered this program thoroughly before we, in the following weeks, probably move on to new studies again and also talk about the fitness calendar. And I suppose even if you're not interested in running the program, the questions might give you some insights regarding high frequency training or general training. Just, in general. So,
we have a very general question to kick things off from Ahmed. What's the rest time between sets?
None. I lift, I add weights, and I lift again. Now that it's cold. But that is not ideal.
No. I mean, in my opinion, it doesn't differ just because you're doing high frequency training compared to whatever you're doing in the gym. I'm still a firm believer in that at least 2-3 minutes is your baseline of rest, no matter if your main goal is strength or hypertrophy. Especially if it's strength you're after, you're going to benefit from resting longer. You're going to be able to lift with better technique and feel fresher and stay at higher weights. But you are so in love in alternating sets that you're still able to.
Yeah, for the last like month or so, I haven't been alternating sets. I'm doing most of them in like all sets of one exercise before moving on, but just basically lifting. I just do weight and lifting again. And the reason for why that works is that almost every workout I'm nowhere near maximal efforts. Every set is fairly light, so it's fine for me to say in the deadlift, do 2 reps with 3 plates as my last warm-up sets, and then just like a minute later be doing 1 or 2 reps with 4 plates, because that is still far from my maximum capacity, so I don't lose out too much. It would still be better if I rested for 3 minutes, because I would create more force when I lift those 4 plates, 180 kilos, but it's not worth it to me to wait that time for that tiny bit of extra strength development. It would still be better, but you have to prioritize or make it work for your schedule. And I really want to keep my workouts under an hour to fit it into my work days.
I'm gonna check out how long a workout is if you rest for 3 minutes.
I am
in the app, because you get estimate.
Yeah.
So week 3, workout 4, and this is excluding any extra warm-up sets. It would take 57 minutes with 3 minutes of rest between sets. So maybe 1 hour and 10 minutes if you do some warm-up sets in each exercise.
But then again, you're not going to need 3 minutes of rest between like the ramp-up sets. So it's gonna be faster,
which is pretty sweet. If you're just resting 2 minutes, it's gonna be 41 minutes instead of 57. So
yeah, but I mean, you can take that extra rest between the heaviest sets. You don't need them early on. And then also a classic time saver is that when you are approaching the end of one exercise, you can like start to initiate the warm up in the next exercise just a little bit and get moving in that, or set up the equipment and whatever, if you have the possibility. But the general rule of thumb for rest times between sets is that you should rest long enough to be able to perform the next planned sets with the weights and reps and form that you aspire to, that you want. That's like the general gist of it. And then you can play around with that. Then we get an interesting question from Brandon, or you can read it. I'm doing enough talking.
Are there any gains in muscle size with this much frequency if done long term?
What do you think?
I would expect to see a lot of gains. I'm going back to your, I mean, if you're a blacksmith, where back in the days working with your heavy hammers all day long, forging swords or other tools, I mean, you're gonna get a huge right arm if you're right-handed. Probably a very noticeable difference between your left and your right arm. I would be very surprised if this wasn't... I mean, this is not the routine I would pick if I was going to compete in bodybuilding. Absolutely not. But I would expect to see some major muscle gains over a long term.
Yeah, because when we talk about optimal training, or at least when we investigate the variables of bodybuilding training, we see that yes, a set taken to failure or close to failure is more effective than a set not taken close to failure. And one of the explanations is that you're going to expose more muscle fibers to exhaustion, or you're going to work more muscle fibers, because the first one, they get tired and they drop off, so to say, and others take their place in the work. And the problem with muscle building when you're doing light sets, so to say, where you're not close to failure, is that you won't expose all the muscle fibers to the training. You're just going to tire some of them every set. So that's like the con or the drawback with this type of training. But I mean, like you said, if you just do enough, I mean, you're gonna see some growth. I recall like an observation study on teenage tennis players, and their dominant arm they're playing with had like 15% thicker muscles. And you're obviously never close to failure when you're playing tennis, reps wise. It doesn't compare to bicep curls, I mean.
No, most definitely not. And I would also be interested to see a person, let's say 2 years of daily training. If you're wise about it, if you go about it the right way, I would be interested to know how much volume that person could tolerate at the end of the 2 years compared to in the beginning of this period. Because if that person was just doing exactly the same as week 1, year 1,
Yeah.
I would say that would be a mistake. This would be something you do to build your tolerance for a higher volume.
Yeah.
And maybe you're doing like close to, if you have the time for it and the energy and the will to do it, you could probably be doing like 10 working sets after 2 years daily without fatiguing. And that's the most interesting part for me. In theory, I will never do this myself.
You can start, just do it with a dumbbell curl. You do one light set of 10.
We talked about this for like a month ago or something, about building your suit of armor.
Yeah.
Through daily training.
As a blacksmith or as a gym goer?
Yeah. Both. Oh, I wish I could do some blacksmithing. I've tried once. Yeah. It's so cool.
Not super appreciated while living in a condo.
No. But if you were to install blacksmithing equipment in your home gym, the temperature would never be an issue, because it's very, very warm when you have a forge going.
Yeah, precisely. But I could only ever do like 3 sets of 10 hammer blows when I'm smithing, because I can't do anymore. I won't be able to recover.
And that's one of the I've been lurking in your Instagram feed, and that's one of the most common question. But how can you recover from this?
Yeah.
How, Daniel? How
can I recover from walking every day or sitting down and back up again from the toilet? Yeah, it's all about the dose. We've been over this. I won't hamper too long about it, but it's a continuum. And a small stress is going to require short or no recovery period, and a huge stress is going to need a really long recovery period. And that's all it is. And I suppose ideally, you want to stimulate your progress as often as possible while keeping that ratio between stimulative and recovery as beneficial as possible. And if we were to think about the optimal program for strength and muscle, I suppose you want to mix some workouts, some stressful and probably mostly not very stressful workouts, but every now and then some really stressful workouts, especially if muscle gain is in that calculation. Yeah. But the play here is to just see what happens if you do workouts where you are recovered 24 hours later. And that's always fun, because people seem to think that if you train every day that you have 0 recovery time. But I mean, you have the 24 hours or 23 hours or whatever. So, yeah. What did we have more? Were we finished with muscle growth training? I think we were.
But we did have a question from Christopher, who wanted to know, how would you go about to adapt this program if muscle mass is the main goal instead of strength, because you're a strength athlete, and Christopher
athlete is a stretch.
Yeah, but I'm feeling generous. It's almost Christmas. But Christopher sounds like a meathead. He wants to pack,
and that's a compliment.
Yeah, that's
for the record.
Most definitely a compliment. But if you want to go about this as a bodybuilder, and you mentioned when you're training for mass, it's in studies we see that sets taken to or really close to failure are more effective for muscle gains.
Yeah.
But we also know that when you do a lot of sets to failure, your recovery time will increase.
Yeah. So let's hypothesize. Say that someone does a workout with 4 hard sets of 10 where they reach failure or very close to failure in all those sets. And let's say that this person typically is recovered after 3 to 4 days. And I mean recovered in terms of muscle damage, performance, soreness, like all the normal stuff.
Yeah.
But how long does that person need to recover from one set to failure, or one set of 10 but he has 2 reps in reserve? Are we closing in on 24 hours now? And will it be 24 hours if he begins with slightly lighter sets and then over 1 or 2 weeks makes them more intense? Can we get to that 24-hour recovery period? I think we can. The question then it becomes is what is the ratio there between stimulation and recovery? But I think it's doable. Is it the best? I have no idea, but I think it's possible to do it. I've launched like a side experiment where I'm not really doing this. I'm nearing it from another direction, where I started doing dumbbell curls and dumbbell tricep extensions with a very lightweight. I use 10 kilos for each one. And I do 10 reps. Say that I could do like 20, maybe 30 reps if I really exerted myself. And I've started accumulating sets of that. So I started with just 1 set of each in the first week, and then I did 2 sets, and now I'm nearing 3 to 4 sets most days. There's some variety. And I've also slowly started to increase the reps I do in each set. Kind of also just to see what happens. Like, does it build any muscle at all? Because the benefit here, someone might say, that sounds like a hassle. Why don't you just do a couple of hard sets instead? But I do this at the end of my other workouts, so I don't have any mental energy for hard set. But this is just like, I don't know, it's the same amount of exertion as going for a walk, basically. It's just relaxing. I can do it while thinking about something else. Just as like a little side experiment to see what happens. So, I mean, yeah, it's the blacksmith training routine. You're doing something fairly light, but you're doing it a lot eventually. What happens?
You're doing this for science, man, and all of society. You're a real philanthropist.
Yeah, and I'm using the very exact muscle measurement technique of looking in the mirror. Looks good, man.
Okay, how about the rest days? You train daily for a shitload of days, and then you write a 5 days per week program because you're a sellout.
Yeah.
And you want
people need to buy it, man.
So should you take the 2 rest days together or split them up?
Doesn't matter, basically. If we're looking at the week as a whole, it doesn't really matter. But I think for a lot of people, seeing that Monday to Friday, for most people probably look the same. They have the same rituals and routines. And then their schedule shifts during the weekend. So maybe they don't have time to go to the gym. Maybe they go to the gym on the way back home from work or something. For some people, the weekdays are gonna need to be off, and for someone else, maybe the weekends. Did I say weekdays? I meant the weekends. But for other people, the weekends are maybe the time where you can train more than otherwise. Probably for someone who is, single or don't have kids.
I also believe that it matters less and less the more training days per week you have. I mean, if you're training once per week, sure, then it doesn't matter at all. But if you're training 2 days per week, it's probably better to have a couple of days in between those 2 days than to do them back to back. Still, doing them back to back is better than nothing. But if you're training 5-6 days per week, that's zero. I mean, don't try. Probably don't change your rest day every week. So find your skincare routine.
Yeah, absolutely.
We should talk about our skincare routines sometime, Daniel.
We should.
It's been requested by a lot of girls.
We will get to that. We just need an affiliate code for some collagen. I love this question from Will. Why 5 times a week? Would 4 not suffice?
Yeah, why
How would you answer it? Yeah.
Why even live?
Precisely.
Why be alive? Why not be dead?
You give Will an answer while I sip coffee.
I still think people should aim to do this 6 or 7 times per week because that's what you did.
I think 6 might be the sweet spot.
Yeah, probably 6. Then you still get a rest day, which
even Nils van der Poel trained for 6 days per week.
Yeah, and why 5 times per week? Why not 4? It's a never-ending cycle. Why 4 times per week? Why not 3? And the volume is not super big in each workout. So the more workout days you skip, the less effective this principle is going to be for you. High frequency training stops being high frequency training if you take away too many training days. And then you should probably follow a program that's written for 3 or 4 days instead, so that you pump up the volume and your results.
Yeah, this is like we're building out a buffet in the app of training programs. Some people don't want to go to the gym 5 times per week. They would rather go 2 or 3 times, but be there for 90 or 120 minutes. Other people, say for my setting, it's perfect to do short workouts, but often, since I have a gym in my garage. So I would much rather do this. And it's much easier to fit in my schedule to do many short workouts instead of some several hours long workouts. So overall, the magic lies in the total work you do in a given time period. And to a large extent, you can distribute that work any way you want it. But the theory is that when you distribute it over more workouts, that you can do slightly more. And we kind of get into that with next question from Anton, because he's been training. He's like a long time Swedish user of the app. He's been doing our old but effective specialization programs for the bench, squat, and deadlift. So we have this suite of programs called bench press boogie, squat samba, and deadlift disco, which are like classic powerlifting programs where in most of them you train for 2 or 3 days per week, specializing in a lift for 6 weeks, and you eventually reach a fairly high training volume with fairly heavy weights. So he's been doing them, but obviously, or out of necessity, 1 or 2 of the lifts have always had to stand back for a couple of weeks when he's doing them. Say he's doing the bench press boogie and the deadlift disco, means that the squat stands back a bit, and vice versa. So he's wondering if this new program would be a good choice for the next training period, if he wants to try and increase all 3 lifts at the same time, or is it better to periodize the training as I have been doing thus far? And when I wrote Groundhog Gains, I looked at these other programs to compare the volume, and I made sure that Groundhog Gains has slightly more sets on average than these do. I mean, it's because you do both squatting and deadlifting, the difference isn't that huge, but compared to squat samba or deadlift disco, you're doing both. So it is a huge increase. Maybe not as many sets at 80% plus as you do in those programs where you really hammer those, but just the total sets and all. You're doing slightly more, but maybe at a slightly lower average intensity. And I'd be curious to see what Anton thinks about it. I think that if he just comes off one of these programs, that he's gonna find Groundhog Gains to be pretty light, at least initially, but maybe not after a while. But I do think that it's a great way to periodize your training, moving between different, like contrasting your training blocks. You're doing one type of training, then you shift to something else. So that it might work nice in that perspective. I mean, it's kind of natural for a lot of people to have that pendulum swinging. So, I mean, the natural contrast of this training is to do low volume, high intensity instead, meaning just doing a couple of super hard sets every week. And then you swing back to doing this type of training instead. So, I mean, you never have to commit for the rest of your life to train in a certain way. You can do it in a block or two, and to learn something and expose yourself to something new, and then pick what you liked from it into your next training block.
Don't put ideas out into the world. Politicians love making new laws.
Yeah.
Everybody's gonna follow Scott Samba for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
It's written.
And what I appreciate maybe most of all out of this is the learning experience, to see how does it feel. I have never deadlifted daily and fairly heavy. I mean, like 75% plus for many of the workouts for this long. And obviously it works. And right now it seems so weird to only train the deadlift once or twice per week.
I remember when we talked about Greg Knuckles a couple of episodes back.
Yeah.
And, I remember when his site was still called String Theory. He had he asked his readers about how they train, his powerlifting readers, and the survey results were people trained the bench press for an average of like 3 times per week, and the squat an average of 2 times per week, and the deadlift once per week. It was super clear that people don't train the deadlift 5 or 6 or 7 times per week. It's it's the most hated of the loved lifts of powerlifting.
You know what we haven't taken up so far in this episode is any concrete results.
But do you have any concrete results?
Kind of, sort of, maybe.
Mr. Athlete.
I'm fishing for them. I've been doing this entire training period without the lifting belts and without knee sleeves for the squats, I say, but without a belt in both squats and deadlift. And how old was it? Was it 2019? I think my beltless deadlift PR is from. It's 242.5 kilos, and I weighed 7 kilos more back then than I do now, and that was a grinding lift. That was a max. Now just this last week I've lifted 230 kilos on 2 occasions. The first one was I hadn't lifted anything heavier than 210 beltless for many years before that, so that was a bit of a shock. I was pretty strong that day. I should maybe have gone for a PR.
You should.
Yeah,
230 moved fast.
Yeah,
there was not even an opening attempt at a powerlifting meet.
It was an opening attempt.
No, people would have been like, what is Daniel doing? He's not even trying.
Yeah, then I did some workouts where I just lifted 4 plates, so 180, and then I felt like testing the waters again a bit, and I felt I wasn't as strong in my hips and back that day, but I lifted 230 again, but I had a skin tear on my thumb, so I had to tape that, and that caused it to slip out of my hand. So I finished the rep and stood up with it, but it was like barely in time before the barbell slipped out of that hand. So anything more wasn't a question at that time. But I sense there's always like this oscillation of strength within the days, and it's possible to have a day where I beat that PR like fairly soon, but we'll see if I do that before I get tired of trying. So and I've been doing pause squats for most of this training period, and before I did this, my pause squat PR was 160 kilos, once again weighing like 6 kilos more than I do now, And after 50 days, those initial 50 days of mostly doing sets with 100 kilos, just like 3 to 5 reps with 100 kilos, I beat that and did 162.5 kilos, weighing 6 kilos less. And there as well, I sensed that I might have another PR in me. Yesterday, I spontaneously loaded 170 kilos and tried to stand back up with it, but I failed at the sticking point.
Yeah, I saw.
Yeah. Maybe 165 would have been possible.
I'm pretty sure you would have had 165, but that's not as cool as 170.
No, it's not. So
It's
my
important
verdict,
to be cool.
it is. It's very important. My verdict is that it's working.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. Pretty surprisingly, the bench press is where I haven't really felt it pop. Maybe I'm training it wrong. I've been doing kind of low volume, high weights for the last few weeks, and I'm probably going to shift that a bit again to do some more pump work in the bench to see what happens. Get some more mass.
And I mean, if you, the listener, decides to give this program, Groundhog Gains, a go, my recommendation would be to follow it as written the first cycle. But then, just like Daniel have been doing, feel free to adjust after your needs and likes. And I mean, you know your body better than a program in an app does. And if you feel like, oh, this is great for my deadlift, but it's not great for my bench press, then change some things, add some sets, do some more reps, whatever, just to see what might be working for you. But try it one cycle first without changing too much.
Yeah, see it as a learning experience.
Yeah.
I want to add something to clarify for maybe the newer listeners about those my strength results. When I say that, like, I have PRs that are 5 or 6 years old, it's not like I was at that level and have maintained that strength level since then. Those were like peak instances, and I've been way weaker in many of the years since then. And when I started this program, I was in another low spot coming back from illness. So right now, I'm probably either the strongest I've ever been without a belt and without knee sleeves, or very, very close to it from this type of training, where I haven't strained myself a ton, in my opinion. So for some more context about these lifts. And that's pretty cool.
I think so too. And you look fit as well. And that matters too.
Yeah, we're heading into gingerbread season.
So what's your skincare routine? That's not.
We'll take that in next week's episode. What are we going to talk about next week, except for our fitness calendar? Because this episode is coming out on the 24th. Groundhog Gains is there for the taking. And hey, what a good idea to follow Groundhog Gains to get your ass in the gym 5+ days per week, so that you can also do the fitness calendar doors, which is going to be one per day, but obviously you can knock off many at a time.
Yeah.
When they have opened, so to say.
Yeah. I still remember when we did this calendar back the last decade, end of the last decade, 2019.
Man, we're old.
every calendar door contained like a workout of the day or something.
Yeah.
Really, really hard workouts. And people were like, but I want to do my own training too. This is no fun. So these days, most calendar doors are 1 or 2 exercises and just a few sets. Try something, try a new technique in curling or whatever, and just have fun with it and add it to your regular workouts. You can, if you have an active workout in the app already, you can add how many calendar doors as you want. Just add them at the end of the workout. You go into the calendar and hit the add to workout button.
Yeah, and it's 100% free to do this.
And all calendar doors on weekend days, Saturday, Sunday, are intended for people not to have to go to the gym. So no equipment needed. It's body weight exercises through and through.
We're so kind.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And the amount of burpees have never been lower.
Nice.
Nobody. This is also the first year where I've excluded Olympic weightlifting completely.
Oh, yeah. You took the opportunity now that our employee Maya, who competes in weightlifting, is doing military service. So
Yeah.
she's not here to stop you.
No, but every year, because we see how many people actually train through the calendar doors, and
Yeah.
the one with Olympic weightlifting is always less than half of the other ones. People just don't want to do it.
So you're also a sellout, is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Nice. All right. The app is called Strengthlog, just like this podcast. Check it out if you will, and we will catch you next Monday.
Train hard, eat well, die in a way.